Hello, welcome to another PG rated review. I'm, of course, Patrick Laser from Out of the Basement. This is the first review of 2019, and yes, I know it has been a while, and apologies for that. There's been a lot going on. First new setup, trying different things, and trying to work on some of my editing magic and practicing. No promise of how good it's going to be. It's probably going to be pretty rough. The first movie I wanted to do this year was Aquaman. I actually wanted to go see that because the trailers made it look really exciting, and I actually watched Justice League just to prepare for it. I got that's a different review altogether. That was tough, but in the end, it turns out I didn't actually have to. If you hadn't seen Justice League, you can watch Aquaman, and they give you very little details on it because DC Warner Brothers have obviously, because of the failure of Suicide Squad and Justice League and all that, have decided, no, we're going to go more for standalone movies. We might try and have some connection with them here and there, but overall, you can watch the movies as they are without having all the other ones background. Which actually is a nice change. You don't have to see 20 movies to understand every single character, their motivation, and what's been going on. Beer does a body good. The whole thing with Aquaman, I mean, he was a joke for the longest time. Like Super Friends, and even in the comics, and Big Bang Theory. Aquaman's been a butt of a joke for quite a long time. The guy who talks to fish, rides a seahorse. Now, DC for a while has been trying to make him a little more badass, buff him up, give him a better backstory and everything. And they decided, okay, let's get an actor who can sort of portray that, and they went with Jason Momoa, who has done a great job in this. He's also proven himself able to do, the badass in other movies and TV series. GOT and Frontier. Anyways, he does a very good job in this one. So his name is, of course, Arthur, and yes, that is part of the storyline. If anyone knows what Arthur and finding something in, special king thing, yes, they pull it up. I think I might be one of the few people in the world that actually found it meh. I didn't find the fight scenes that exciting. I mean, the CGI was nice, but it's nothing out of the ordinary. And again, a lot of lights and pretty colors. The story was okay. Don't get me wrong. Jason Momoa and other people, the Amber Heard, they do a good job. But it's I don't know. I just found it okay. It's a big dumb movie, but not in a great sort of way. Deadpool is a much better big dumb movie. Of course, it's also got a better story in my mind and more original than Arthur, King of the Sea, finds a trident. The true king. Guess where it's going. Yes. So there'll be spoilers coming up later. Right now, again, I just want to give my impression that I found it all right. It was okay, but a lot of the fight scenes, I was just, is it over yet? Oh, look, there's lots of stuff going on. I have no invested interest in this fight. I could care less how many people are dying left all over the place. There's no reaction to that. Even some of the fight scenes between Manta, which I know they pulled in from the comics, and Manta's another one that they did well. The backstory, the character development was well done, so kudos for that. But again, in my mind, the fight scenes went on, even with Manta, too long, and it just was all right, but it made no sense. And sometimes why they kept fighting and why that was going on there. Now I saw it for on Boxing Day, or actually I think Christmas. It's on Christmas, so it was a Christmas present from my friend and podcast co-host Devram. So I do appreciate that he took me to see it. But overall, I don't know. I'm just getting too blasé with the superhero movies, and other people might be the same thing. It's the same as Solo to me was just and other people, Devram and Paul from the podcast, were like, "This is great. It's awesome." So maybe Shazam will wow me. I'm hoping for Shazam will be better. I mean, I have seen Bird Box and other movies on Netflix and liked, and I'll be talking about those ones hopefully. So I've been rambling. I know my habit. So my rating for this one is hard to say because again, it is a big dumb superhero movie, so it works in that genre. If you don't want to have to think too much in a superhero movie, it's not as good as Guardians of the Galaxy. There's less of a story than that. More like Iron Man 2, Iron Man 3, to give you an idea of in the Marvel genre. It's good, but just for me, it didn't grab me. Didn't keep my attention through most of it. I was bored a lot through that movie. So I know I'm gonna get some for the few people that are watching this, and I'll probably get some hate comments and stuff like that going, it was great, it was awesome, which is fine. If you liked it, that's good. That's what movies are. It's art. It's subjective. If you enjoyed it and liked it, more power to you. Me, I didn't get that much out of it. So my my rating is going to be only a 6 out of a 12 pack of somewhat decent beer. Nothing great, nothing outstanding. Just sort of, oh, you've already had a few beer left over from the last time you watched the movie. You're like, well, that's what we got. 6 beers. Might as well go with it. Today's episode is brought to you by beer. I would not be able to go through some of these movies I've seen. Avatar, Prometheus, Covenant, Jupiter's Ascending, Justice League, without the help of beer. It kills enough brain cells to make watching those movies interesting. Alone or with friends, when you're watching shitty movies and trying to get through them, beer is the way to go. So any microbrewers out there that are interested in helping support Out of the Basement, I'm here for you. Cheers. So that's my rating. 6 out of 12, average beer. And now on to the good, the bad, or, the good, the man, what the fuck. So, the good part, again, the actors are pretty good. Usually most actors, it's the story and the directing is where it falls apart. Most actors are pretty decent, especially in this sort of thing. Like, they do a good job. So I have no problem with the acting. The character of Arthur was okay. Again, really well done. Like he had the tongue-in-cheek sort of thing. There was humor involved with him, but he also had a seriousness, and you did believe him to be a badass, which was good. Manta, again, the story behind Manta and the portrayal and the technology to get to be Manta and able to stand up to Arthur was well done. Aquaman is powerful. Manta had to have technology to get up to be able to stand up to him. That was well done. Some of the fight scenes I said between Aquaman and Manta before the pre-Manta and after Manta was well done. Those were good fights. They were well choreographed. Not too many. Well, obviously there's gonna be some cuts back and forth, but not super heavy like some of the Marvel ones, which are just hard to follow because there's just too many. And the Nicole Kidman as the mom was actually pretty good. The dad, his parents' story was well done. It was a nice, good love story, so that worked well. It was touching. It felt real. The main villain, Ocean Master, he was okay. Actually, he was all right because it was again one of the things of like, well, I have this thing of what I want to do and what I want to portray, and that's my motivation. It was okay. But again, it's sort of oh look, I want to take over Atlantis and the sea to take over the world. All right, been there, done that, seen it a lot of times. So that was more of a meh. Again, so like for me, like there wasn't as many good parts of this that got to me. Again, if you saw a lot and you enjoyed it, you enjoyed the fight scene, all that, perfect. For me, they're more than the fight scenes from overall, like especially when they started doing the big fight scenes of the armies fighting each other with all the sea creatures and all that. I was just like, my brain turned off. I'm like, God, I have to sit through this. It felt like the the prequels or Star Wars, where it's like we'll just throw more things at the screen for you and that'll grab your attention. You'll see more explosions, more things flying around, more color. As I was joking with some people afterwards, like maybe if I've never done this, but if I dropped a tab of acid or something, like I probably would have enjoyed it more. It was just too much to grab my attention, and I was like, okay, they're just trying to have more on the screen to show it's important. But it was just too much. The background, so now we're getting into some spoilers here. The background for Arthur again was, it's King Arthur, except in the sea, and instead of a sword, it's a trident. But basically, he's the true king because, of course, he is, and we have to follow him because he's the true king. Why do we keep doing kings and that sort of idea and monarchies in these stories? I know it's in there in the comics. I understand that's where it's coming from. But can we not retell it in a different way? Because basically he's a guy who lived on the sea most of his entire life, and he didn't really care about responsibility. Yes, he was trained by Willem Dafoe's character to fight, but he never had any training on how to be a leader or responsibility or any of that sort of thing. But because he fucking took the trident from some dead king's hands, he is now the new king, and we will follow him because he's the guy. But he doesn't know anything about leading or anything. So those to me are just the things I'm getting tired of seeing in some movies, where we have to follow him because he's the king. And there's more also, so in Justice League, and this is also part of the DC Aquaman story, they were advanced technology, and in Justice League you actually saw some of that, and definitely see it in this one. But the Atlanteans and the Amazonians went to war a long time ago. And they don't really talk too much about the fact that they just went to war. But you're like, how the fuck did the Atlanteans not beat the Amazonians? Seriously, their technology is so much bigger, and they have huge creatures. And okay, yes, they can't fight on the land very well because they can't survive there, so they have to have the special equipment for most of them. But still. And the other one was Justice League. I kept going, where's Superman? Where's Never Mind Superman? Where's the Navy? Now we're getting into more what the fuck things. So the more mass stuff was, again, just a story. Just some of the fights were too long and too much. Just, okay, look, there's thousands of people in the field. Yay! They're all fighting. Ocean Master, well, he wants to become Ocean Master. He's a king of Atlantis. He has to take over the other kingdoms under the sea. Under the sea. And there's these crab things that we've never seen. We just heard about a couple times. But to be full Ocean Master, he has to take control of them. But they don't want to follow him, so he's like, well, we'll fight you then. Well, if that's what you're going to do, you didn't actually have to have them follow you. You just could have invaded Earth, the land, anyways. But here's the guys we've never seen before with crab creatures and big, huge shelled crab things fighting. Because. Alright? Whatever. Some of the there was several what the fuck moments. One, where's the fucking Navy? This is all happening underwater, and there's this massive Kraken. Oh, sorry, it's not the Kraken, it's not the Leviathan, it's some other thing, but it's basically, release the Kraken!
Release the Kraken!
And it's huge, it's massive. And seismic shockwaves are going all over the place. But not one of the navies or the satellites that are all over the ocean or, watching the ocean, spot this. Nothing at all. Nothing from anybody. They even go up to the surface and are having fights with special submarines. And again, no one notices or hears it. Or sees it. It's just there. And again, there's a scene where they have to find the trident.
The vessel with the pestle, you want the chalice from the palace.
And the clue is, well, you have to go to, look through the hand of the glass that has the hand of a king. So first they go to where there's one of the tribes that died out that's now in the Sahara Desert, of course. And it's underground, and they fall there, and this ancient device has to be activated by water. So Mara pulls out a tiny droplets from Aquaman's head to put on this massive piece of ancient technology, and like 3 drops of water, all it takes to activate the whole thing again, even though it used to be underwater and it needed water to run. Now it's covered in sand. 3 drops of water is all it takes to get to work. Aquaman was good for this one because he's like, I could have just pissed on it, which is true, would give more liquid, and that at least would have made more sense of having enough liquid to sort of make it run, as opposed to 3 tiny drops of sweat. They get the bottle. They have to find the king's hands to look through it, and it turns out the king is an ancient king of Rome. Well, not ancient. It's just over 2,000 years ago. So 2,100 years ago. But the Atlanteans supposedly were more than 5,000 years ago. They were underwater. So how the fuck did they know about Rome, Roman kings, and one particular statue of a particular Roman king to use to find the trident from the king who disappeared several thousand years ago? See, this where it makes no sense, because if the Atlanteans and the Romans knew about the Atlanteans, then we would have known more about the Atlanteans in our human history, because that would have been there, that big huge cataclysm and all that sort of stuff. Unless they're trying to say, oh, the floods what did it, but then the time doesn't work again. So he puts the bottle on the hand of the king of Rome somehow, and that leads him to the trench, ignoring, of course, the tectonic plates shifting over time. Admittedly, it's not huge amounts in only 2,100 years, but there's still been some shifting. But it leads them directly to where the trench, which of course again we have subs and ships and satellites over top of. So as they're going there, there's the Cthulhu monsters, is what I'm going to call them, because that's what they were. They're basically the deep ones from Cthulhu, human, lizard, underwater creature type things. And there's a bunch that are attacking the boat for some reason. It would have been nice if it was because they're Atlanteans. They had a line about that they sense, they sense our blood, they smell us, something. But no, it wasn't there. So he was like, well, do they attack every single ship that goes in the water, or only when there's a storm? But again, we don't hear. How can we've never heard about this? So they're fighting the ones on the ship, and then they're like, well, we have to dive in the water to get to the trench, the portal where it is. And they're followed by tons of these things. Like, it's insane the amount of deep ones. I'm just going to call them deep ones because there's another name, but fuck it. Just call them deep ones because they're Cthulhuid type monsters. There is tons. It's like thousands upon thousands of just as a stream of insane amount of deep ones following them, and you're like, how the fuck do these things live? Like, seriously, they have to eat every single fish that there's ever been in the fucking ocean to survive. So they go through there, they get to the portal. Of course, it magically takes them to the underground thing under the inside the earth, where he meets his mother, who's been there for 20-something years, because even though they threw her to the beast 20 years ago, she, of course, escaped.
Of course!
And got there, where she's been watching over the trident, trying to get to it, but there's the Leviathan Kraken thing that guards it, and no one can get there. So, of course, Arthur's like, well, you can do it, because you're the true king. He swims there to go. He sees the trident. The Leviathan Kraken thing comes down, and, you can't get it. I've killed all these other ones. There's a little fight, massive thing. The columns around there are destroyed because it's Leviathan Kraken. It's huge, but it never destroyed any of the columns any other time the other guys came by. Anyways, he, of course, with his power to talk to fish, talks to the Leviathan and makes it stop. He's like, well, okay, go ahead, try to draw this trident. If you don't, I'll eat you. He, of course, draws the trident because he's Arthur. Draws the trident from the stone, the hands. And ta-da! He's the king.
Of course!
And he now puts on the armor. You don't see him, but he puts on the armor from the Dead King. Again, would have been nice just to have a little scene where he grabs the armor. But anyways, go back to the Ocean Master. There's a big fight happening where there's, like, again, thousands of things going on all over the place. Like seahorses, massive seahorses with sharks and all that, fighting big crab people with giant crab things. Whoa, look, lots of stuff happening. They're off. It's boring. Arthur shows up with a trident, and all the deep ones are following him for some reason, because he's the true king. But none of the other people follow him, or the crab things don't follow him. But he commands all the animals to stop fighting, and then the sharks turn on the Atlanteans, who are supposedly his people, that he's there to try and stop the war and save. But he just tells the shark things to just start eating all the Atlanteans. So yeah, and there's a scene where him and Mohr are in the middle of the massive battle going on. It's like, well, you've got to stop it. You have to face him one-on-one because you're the king and you can challenge him because he's a king and you're a king. So, of course, you stop the fight to challenge him. All right. So they decide to go up to the surface because now Aquaman has an advantage in the surface because he's more used to fighting there. And, of course, they have to have a kiss because you got to have a romance between the male character and female character. You have to. It's a law, right? Of course. In case people don't know, that's from Raul Julia's in Street Fighter. One of the best things from him. But again, while they're doing this, and like before they all started this, she's like, "Well, we got to stop the war. We got to save people. There's too many people dying." In the background, while they're having this little talk and the kiss, there's still the massive fight going on. So there's people dying all over the place around them for the 3 minutes going on while they're having this discussion of how we should stop the war. They go to the surface. There's a few people in the Atlanteans and stuff like that. But the war down below is still going on because the crab people don't fucking know what's going on. All they know is they're being attacked by the Atlanteans. So they're still going to keep... And the other guys who were in the coalition with the Atlanteans, they're still going to keep fighting because the Atlanteans have just taken off, and a couple other ones, Mara's dad. And of course, no surprise, Aquaman Arthur wins. He's the true king. People kneel for him. On the surface, well, more people are still dying in the sea. And there you go. It's happy. His dad and his mom are reunited. Everyone's happy. Sequel time with Manta, of course. So even though the DC is not doing the war, they're let's have all movies all connected, they still want to do sequels with each one. So that's why Wonder Woman's coming on the one. Aquaman did fucking tons of money. I don't know why. I feel like it's almost like Avatar. I know why so many people liked it. But there's gonna be a sequel. That was the movie. And yeah, it just, for me, it was bullshit for a lot of it. But, like I said, if you enjoyed it, that's great for you. Please don't leave hateful comments that because I don't like it. I've watched a lot of movies. Like I said, it might just be me getting to the point where I'm just meh for some of these movies because I've seen too many of them and they don't capture my imagination anymore. But other than that, like I said, if you enjoyed it, great. And thank you for listening, and cheers.